But then when we broke off into groups, maybe Christine, if you want to talk a little bit about the planning pyramid that we developed.
Yeah, so what we started to do is the guys who have the technical skills went off and built the prototypes. Those of us who are more familiar with the educational realms, we started thinking about the experience from what would be in a formal education experience known as a planning pyramid, where you're thinking about what is it that's most important for all visitors to learn, what do you expect most visitors to learn, and what may a few visitors learn. So what do you want to provide the options of for further exploration? And when you're planning this, it's important to keep in mind that you're not doing this kind of relegating certain disabilities to certain tiers, but you're recognizing that where people are in the planning pyramid is based on their prior knowledge and also their interest levels, as well as their abilities as they're moving through this. And we talked about the kind of where all visitors learn need to be in a very concrete realm, and then where a few visitors learn go up into the abstract realm. And to kind of pull this together, we went through a few different National Research Council documents. So we looked at taking science to school. We also looked at the new science content standards to figure out what's the most important ideas related to data that are present in those documents. And we also looked at some of the places where learners are most likely to struggle around working with data. And one of the key ones for younger children, we thought for some of the visitors with certain intellectual disabilities, would be even this abstraction that this data point that's on the screen represents something else that exists in the real world. That's sometimes hard for people to grasp. And so we looked at that, as well as difficulties people might have interpreting meaning from data and how we might scaffold that, and also the difficulties that people might have thinking about patterns and trends in data and how to make them. So I'll pass it over to.
Yeah. First, a quick question: how do I full screen?
This is the best part of your day when we make you look at a spreadsheet. You'll always remember me as the lady who came to the fun workshop and made the spreadsheet. So I'm really, really sorry. And we didn't mean it to look this daunting. It actually started out as just sort of me trying to organize ideas on Post-its because they weren't making sense. But then what happened was, as it got more useful, it got more filled up, and then Eric came back in and just like turned around and looked at it and said, I can't even look at that. But it actually is a really useful tool that helped us. What we found as we were talking through how do we create an interface that communicates something about data, is you have to know what it is that you want to communicate with your data in order to answer that question, because there are different metaphors depending on, are you talking about a point, are you talking about granularity, are you talking about a gradation of these different variables, and until we know that, we can't understand what it is that we're doing, even for a fully able user, even if you're just talking about a visual interface. And then to get to these other types of interfaces, we had to organize our ideas. So what we did, and I know that none of you can see this, so I'll talk through it, and this will be part of, I think, the toolkit that we're putting together. But what we did, so this is a spreadsheet. The column on the left, far, far left, which you can't see, but that's okay, it's our planning pyramid. So are we talking about a level 1 learning goal, a level 2 learning goal, or a level 3 learning goal? Then the next columns, as they go over, we ask these questions: what skills am I practicing? Because that kept coming up again and again. What's the activity that people are doing? Why do we want them to do that? So what skills am I practicing? What am I understanding in practicing those skills? And then what am I doing? What's the physical thing that I'm doing at this interactive? And we asked ourselves that question for each of our personas. So Ron, Cynthia, Addison, and everyone else, that what am I doing is going to be different. And what we found is that this tool, in the same way that a logic model helps you design your program based on your outcomes, this helped us design our interactive, or will help us design our interactive based on what we want each of these users to experience and do. And then, so in the what am I understanding column, we basically said, okay, let's make ourselves stop thinking about what it looks like, and let's just write our script. What's the order of ideas or messages that visitors encounter? And I'll maybe quickly read that, because it's important. What am I understanding? I'm a data point. My data point represents information about me, my sex, age, and ability to balance. All these other data points are other people, and we are a data set. Ah! I don't have it memorized. There it is. There is a pattern in this data, and I am part of that pattern. This pattern can tell me something about how age is related to balance. A different pattern tells me something about how sex is related to balance. I can change the variables to see the pattern change and find out different things about people and balance. I have questions that can be answered with this data. I can make changes to the data to get answers to my questions. Patterns in the data tell me the answers to my questions. And as you go down, this sort of goes from 1 through 2 through 3 on our pyramid. So we needed to ground our users' sort of trajectory of experience in some scaffolding, and we needed to sort of get you from I am a data point, there is something that represents that data point, to being able to ask questions and use that data. And then what we did is we started walking through each of our personas and said, okay, how does Ron encounter this information? How does Alan encounter this information? How does Mimi encounter information? And it sort of forced us to ask, to make sure we were addressing each of those users' needs. And what we found is that there are lots of things that we hadn't thought about in each of these users, and then that would get us going back and thinking about another user. So this is a work in progress, but it's a way of sort of calling out your questions and making sure that you're meeting everyone's needs. Do you have anything to add, Christine, about the users?
No, I think it's perfect.
Spreadsheet, oh, done.